This is VSiN By The Books on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We are back, VSiN By The Books, as we begin hour number 3. I'm Dave Ross here at Circus Sports Fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. Our closer, Jensen, was back home in Cleveland, Ohio. If you go northeast, we get to Connecticut. Is my geography right there, Jensen?
You're right. Yes, sir.
Pretty darn good. I'm so smart, that VCU education. We bring in the king of Connecticut, the one and only Will Hill. You can give him a follow on X as I do it, not the Will Hill. Joins us now, the progressive guest line, the host of the Should Have Bet More podcast. Will, how are we doing here on a post-NFL Draft Monday?
Always good. Happy to be with you guys. I think we talked about this a little bit last week, and it's worth reiterating. The NBA, their regular season, it sometimes feels like a lost cause, feels like an 82-game preseason, but man, they still got a good postseason. We had a hell of a weekend of postseason basketball with Knicks Pistons ending, the Nuggets Clippers, which was just an ending I don't think any of us have ever seen before. Lakers T-Wolves was a lot of fun. Even Magic put up a fight against the Celtics. So we had some good games. It was a lot of fun. These are good weekends when you get NBA playoffs, NHL playoffs, NFL draft. There's just there's so much going on, especially with all the baseball too.
Do we rethink now? Because Jensen and I talked a little bit about it. Can the NBA get into the discourse of maybe it's on par with the Stanley Cup playoffs so far this year?
Yes, absolutely. I think both have been entertaining. I hate getting into this. People, the hockey guys, hockey has the best playoffs. These other fans, college football is the best sport. Can't we just enjoy all of it? The best sport is not just what you like. Like, we can't let's all watch it. Let's all enjoy it. I remember this time during COVID, we were dying to watch any sport. So the fact that we get all these playoffs and all these games is cool. I hate the comparison stuff. I think it's silly sometimes.
You're so right, Will, because I needed so much to be into it that I even delved into Bundesliga, Serie A, just having to make sure that you had some sort of heartbeat going in. I agree wholeheartedly. Okay, we're getting into closeout scenarios here, basically the next 3 days, and we get the Cavaliers a chance to put the heat away tonight. I know you like the Cleveland side here. Overall, though, your handicap not only of the Cavs tonight, but potentially moving forward.
Yeah, I think the Cavs have been ultra impressive. I like them tonight, minus the 8.5. I mean, just to keep it pretty simple here, why would it be any different tonight? The Cavs have outscored Miami by 67 points in the 3 games here, over 22 points per game. Why would Miami all of a sudden down 3-0, all of a sudden become ultra competitive? They don't have a great home court to begin with, and they're completely outmanned. Cleveland is really good. I've actually come to the point where I felt all year, you get sometimes these teams in the NBA that you feel like they're a regular season team. The Hawks had teams like this years ago. So you got to prove it in the playoffs. They haven't done that, haven't been to a conference finals. I'm actually coming to the point where it's like, man, maybe we're all just sleeping on them. And maybe a couple months from now, they're going to be holding up the trophy and win the championship. They have dominated a Heat team that look, they're usually competitive. They're well coached. And it's looked like the varsity versus the JV. The Heat have no answers. The Cavs do a lot of things well. So much firepower. So, boy, if we get the Cavs Celtics series in the Eastern Conference Finals like we all expect, that's going to be a hell of a series. And I would probably still pick the Celtics, but I don't know how you'd have a lot of confidence in that. And laying a number with the Celtics too, especially when the Cavs have home court. It's possible that the best team, or at least in the East here, is hiding in plain sight. And OKC, for all of the sweep, the 51-point game 1, they were quietly not as dominant the next few games. They were lucky to cover in game 2. Game 3, they're down 1 million points. In game 4 was a coin flip game where they were favored by 15. So Cavs are I think being slept on a little bit, including by me.
By the way, you can still get them at over $5 plus 550 here for the Cavs to cut down the nets. They don't do that in the pros. OKC still get plus money, plus $1.50. Will, do you think that's an actionable spot? Obviously, the Celtics are the second betting choice right there with OKC.
Cavs at 5-1 is intriguing. Cavs to 5-1. If you told me you bet, hey, I bet the Cavs. What did you say? It's 5-1 plus 550.
550, yeah.
I mean, how could you say that's a bad bet? They got home court at least until the finals. Do I ultimately think they're going to win? I'm still not there, but getting over 5-1, I do think is a good price.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Will, we got the Rockets and the Warriors, another entertaining series thus far. This total, I got under at 200.5. It's up to 202 on DraftKings. But I kind of look at where a play you have tonight is correlated. I do think defense continues here. Under has come down. It was a 213 in game 1, and it has trickled down here into game 4, and eventually we'll see probably again. Where do you see overall, and obviously the status of Jimmy Butler? We'll wait and see if he's back.
Yeah, it seems like Butler is probably going to play tonight. And, I bet Houston under team total 100.5, so 100.5. I just don't think they can score. And that seemed like a real missed opportunity for Houston in game 3, because that was a game where Butler's out. Curry has no help. It's basically 1-on-5. And you know what? Experience still matters. The experience of Curry, the experience of Draymond, and just that infrastructure, Kerr, all of those guys carried them through. And I don't know that Houston, if you can't beat them without Butler, I don't know if you're going to beat them in Golden State with Butler. It feels like that was one that Houston needed to get, and they couldn't. They just couldn't do anything down the stretch. And the reason I like the team total under, they can't score. They just have it's hard to watch them and believe this team was a 2 seed in such a good West. Playoff basketball is different. Their half-court offense is just non-existent. They certainly, it looks like, need one more piece, maybe a big piece on offense that can hit some shots. All of that talent is there. And look, getting the 2 seed in the West is tough, but I just don't know from a half-court perspective in the playoffs where things slow down. Can you score consistently enough to win this series? Can you score enough to hit over 100? Get that 101 to cash that over. I would look towards the under. I just don't know that they're going to score enough, and I think Golden State probably wins and takes that commanding 3-1 series lead. Although, when 5 and 7 are on the road, when you're the lower seed, 3-1's not as commanding. I always think if you're the road team, if you're the lower seed, kind of have to be up 3-1 after 4 if you're serious about winning the series, because 2-2 with 5 on the road, 7 on the road is not as good, but different scenario here because the Warriors are the more talented team and the favorite.
That's exactly where Minnesota finds themselves, up 3-1 against the Lakers. They can close it out in game 5. By the way, Lakers on the series price, Will, plus 350. You got to lay $5 here with Minnesota. I don't know that I'd want to lay that, obviously, if I didn't have anything before the series, because obviously if they don't win game 5, all the pressure theoretically could fall back to them in game 6 before facing a game 7 in LA. What do you make of game 5 in overall in the series?
Yeah, I mean, it could probably, Lakers are going to be kicking themselves because it could probably be 2-2. And if Luka wasn't sick in game 3, I mean, he clearly wasn't himself. Maybe even the Lakers are up 3-1. It's hard to watch those 2 games in Minnesota and if you're the Lakers and say, man, we couldn't even get a split. I do think they win game 5. We see this a lot, similar to when a team is down 1-0 at home, and like the Lakers were, we were talking about last week when we did the show. There's just a desperation when you're down 3-1 at home. I think the team up 3-1, there's a little bit of a, not that you relax when you have a chance to close them out, but you just can't fake the desperation of facing elimination. I think that it's not even conspiracy. It's just the way the playoffs work. The Lakers are going to get some calls, I would think, in game 5. They got, I think, a rough whistle at the end in game 4. I hated the idea that we go to the replay review thing, and now we're going to start looking for fouls and stuff. That's not the idea of replay, is to nitpick every frame by frame. It's to fix the the Don Denkinger calls that cost people World Series, the calls that are egregious. So I didn't like that, but Lakers are home. Lakers are trailing 3-1. You got LeBron, you got Luka. I would think they would get the benefit of the whistle in game 5, and that's one where if the Lakers get a lead, do the Timberwolves say, all right, you know what? Well, we got a chance to close it out at home. I don't know that the Lakers are winning in Minnesota. Minnesota, just from a big picture standpoint here, they're younger, they're deeper. The Lakers have really fallen apart in these fourth quarters. I think it's 105-69. The Timberwolves lead the fourth quarter scoring in the series. So this feels like Timberwolves in 6, but I do think the Lakers win in game 5 and cover in game 5.
All right, Will, let's pivot to Major League Baseball. I know a couple of plays that you do like. Let's go to Denver first, and a Braves team that all of a sudden has found the offense, and it seems that things are clicking a bit more for them. You're looking to the run line against Mr. Ryan Feltner and the Colorado Rockies there in Denver today.
Yeah, and I'm curious what you guys think. Right now, if you guys had to make the odds, the Dave and Jensen Sportsbook, how many games is this Rockies team winning? I think 4-23, 4-24. They might be. We might be looking at a White Sox version of this season here, because they play the Giants, Dodgers, Padres, Diamondbacks. That division is loaded. The National League is loaded. They are going to be, I don't know, 50-win team. Maybe would even be generous. I don't know, but I like Atlanta tonight. I think you're at the point with Colorado. You got to figure out a way to fade them pretty much every day. Now, you don't want to be late to the party, but like you said, Jensen, Atlanta is heating up. The bats are heating up. So I'm going to lay the 1.5 with Atlanta. I don't mind laying the 1.5 when the total's high. I get my 9 at bats as the road team, and I think Atlanta here can put up some runs. I don't mind the over either. Elder's not great. Feltner's not great. So this could be a high scoring game, and I'm okay laying the 1.5.
I think in the sports book,
woeful Rockies team. Yeah,
the sports book of Ross and Lewis. I think we're putting that at 50. That's exactly the number I was going to put it. I don't know that I'd run to the window to play the over I'll tell you that. I might look to the under on this team because that division, as you mentioned, it is brutal. And like the Reds go there and get the sweep this week, that's what the ATL is thinking, to get back into the race a little bit. Go beat up on the Rockies. It's a pretty good recipe. What about in Cleveland today? Maybe early on you get some good pitching if you don't trust the bullpens late?
Yeah, I like this pitching matchup, and the advanced stuff on these guys is not as much as you'd expect. It's not as good as you'd expect when you look at Gavin Williams, Bailey Ober for the Twins. Those are two guys I like. Gavin Williams' stuff is off the charts. He has gotten hit hard here. Ober has not been as good as he's been in past years, but at 4.5 in the first 5, I do like the under. I can see this as like a 2-1, 2-2 type of game. Like I said, Gavin Williams, his fastball velocity is off the charts. He's just not locating the ball great, but he's getting swings and misses. He's getting chases. Ober's a guy who's had success in the past. So to me, we see a low scoring start to this game. I'm going to play the under 4.5 in the first 5.
I love it. And again, just overall, can we have a moment for Devin Williams there in the Bronx, man? Yee-hee.
Kickers are like closers. I always say this. There's a lot of comparison kickers and closers, and we've seen closers, blow big saves in big spots and not be the same. Mark Wohlers, Donnie Moore, tragically. We've seen it in football. Mike Vanderjagt, Blair Walsh. These guys miss big playoff kicks, and it sticks with you. I don't know enough. I mean, you probably know this better than me. If there's a mechanical issue with Devin Williams, is it psychological? But I don't want to put a smile on Dave Ross's face, but it feels like Pete Alonso might have broken the Yankees closer, Devin Williams, former closer.
Sorry, Devin. Not everybody's built for New York. Pete Alonso is, that's for sure. Wow. Will, you're the best. Check out his podcast, people. It is fantastic. The Should Have Bet More podcast. Give him a follow on X at Not The Will Hill. Just saying, if you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Right now, Devin Williams is not making it. Can you make it in Cleveland? Who's the week 1 starter? That's next here at VSiN By The Books.
Tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis. Great conversation with the King of Connecticut, Will Hill, in the last segment. Going to go north of the border to Rachel Doerrie in the next segment to talk all things puck. And I'm sure the Canadiens fans are still... That was a tough one to take yesterday, as they now are down 3-1 to D.C. as the Caps come back and get that win last night. 5-2 in Canada, but all eyes were on Cleveland. It felt like in the NFL draft. Oh, by the way, Tennessee had the number 1 pick. Cam Ward went number 1 overall. It just felt like everything. And again, I'm not saying that that's us in our industry, but that was a specific 4-letter network that could not let it go on Shedeur Sanders. So he doesn't go to the 5th round. Obviously, they take Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round. And I think, to me, if I had a question with Andrew Berry today, that would be my question, Jensen. Not, hey, you got Shedeur in the 5th round. That feels like value. You did give up a couple picks to hop in front of Philadelphia because maybe they were going to take him next on the board in said 5th round. But when you have that pick, if you knew you were going to do that, then why did you take Dylan Gabriel in the 3rd round? Is that, if you could ask a fair question of Andrew Berry today on a Monday, would that be question number 1?
Well, I think if Jimmy Haslam's in the room, you're cornering. I mean, I would plead the 5th if I were Andrew Berry. You can't do that. But in my heart of hearts, if we're all hooking those personnel up to lie detector tests, Andrew Berry is going to answer clearly and concisely, this was not my pick. Okay? Because, hey, you know what? He knows who's writing the checks. And ultimately, this is part of the handicap that we gave people. You can have all the research and all the information you want. When that owner steps in the room and says, here's who I want, boom, doesn't matter how much research you've done, doesn't matter what information you have, that's the pick that's going to happen. So I think that's where, when Shedeur was still there in day 3, I'm sure Jimmy had a conversation, was like, if we get a chance, we need to take him because that's the guy I want. Same thing that happened with Johnny Manziel. It has happened in many of the drafts past, and all you need, Dave, is the video of Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry when that pick came across. That's all you need.
Like a golf clap. Nobody stood up. Nobody shook hands. If you saw the
They're wearing the bear hugs. They're wearing the proverbial high fives. Like, yeah, that's the guy we wanted all along. I
mean, at least sell it, right? Like, hop up and down. Yeah, we got Shedeur in the 5th. That was our plan all along. Like, sell us on that. But when you do this, and you're like, you're not even making sounds with your hands. With the clap, it was so muted. You go, whoa, what just happened there? But that's what you have. Now, you look at the futures market. Who's going to take that first snap week 1? And you're right. Scheduling could play into this. You know, I am stunned that there were some markets apparently at DraftKings where it opened up. Joe Flacco was 12-1 to take the first, and that's been about way down, and now it's down to 3-1, which still surprises me a little bit. Shador is the second betting choice at plus 225. Kenny Pickett, who they got out of Philadelphia, plus $1.20 to be the week 1 starter. There's Dylan Gabriel, the third-round pick at plus 650. And the Deshaun Watson's 18-1. Look, the legalities and all of those things, I got to work it out. That's why he's still technically on the roster. You can't imagine that he's going to be on the roster week 1. I don't know how they're going to work all that out legally and monetarily. But, Jensen, I don't know that you can carry 4 quarterbacks. Certainly can't carry 5 in week 1. So you have to kind of go process of elimination if you're to wager into this market. But to me, I can understand why Dylan Gabriel is the long shot at plus 650. To me, I'd have to look to Pickett and or Flacco unless Shador or Dylan absolutely wows Kevin Stefanski from now until September.
Yeah, I would eliminate Shador in this market particularly, and you're right, it is between Pickett and Flacco, and we've seen kind of in years past that it can be a front-loaded division schedule for the Browns, and so there's 2 sentiments to think about. And it's probably correlated with the next market we will talk about, and that's the potential number 1 overall selection in the 2026 NFL draft. And you're looking at, Arch Manning, Drew Aller, who is also a Northeast Ohio native from Medina High School. Talk about a homecoming. And there've been a lot of people that have circled that name as a guy that, potentially in this market, when Cleveland made that trade from 2 to 5, getting Jacksonville's number 1 in next year's draft, I think there were a lot of people here thinking, if Arch Manning is available and we can get him, great. But Drew Aller would also be a guy, assuming that Jacksonville does not have a very good year and is within that top 10.
Fascinating. And again, to me, I'm with you. I would look to the Flacco number. Now, again, you're not getting 12-1 anymore. You're getting 3-1 here, that he's a guy. But Stefanski loves him. Comeback player of the year just a couple years ago, goes to Indianapolis last year, back in the Browns. Like, you don't make those moves unless there's a reason why Kevin Stefanski had to lobby, I'm sure, Andrew Berry to say, let's get Joe back. We shouldn't have let him go in the first place. Yep. This was the guy. And, oh, by the way, if you just remember 2 years ago, somehow they made the postseason. And they lost to Houston in the first round. But you made the postseason with Joe Flacco off the street. He was on his couch. And he comes in and saves that season for the Browns. And I think it's very smart on your part, too. I would still play that at Flacco at 3-1 to answer that betting question. And that if Joe Flacco, if you knew he was the starting quarterback, yeah, I'd be more apt to play the over 4.5 wins. But the question would be, how long is Joe Flacco the starting quarterback? And do you think it's really just that competition with Pickett? And I guess you could make the same argument. Hey, then why did you go get Kenny Pickett? Right? Why did you get Pickett if your idea is to start Flacco? Why 2 veterans and 2 rookies?
Well, I think the idea could be 2. And I've said this to you for multiple weeks. I don't think the Browns felt like they were going to compete this year. And by evidence of the rest of the draft, you felt that they got a lot of pieces that strengthen a defense that was already really good. That's why I think Mason Graham is very live for Defensive Rookie of the Year, knowing that he could have free reign in the middle with what defenses will contend with Myles Garrett. Their secondary is already really good. But also that under 4.5 was intriguing, and even more so now that they have multiple first-round picks for next year. Think of the capital that it would take, and if they do, not to say they're going to tank right away, but it was pretty indicative that they were not going to go spend on a guy that they felt could help them right away. And also factor in the Dylan Gabriel part of this, that he was a guy they had circled very early, made overtures, and went out there to see him and have dinner with him and do a workout with him. They're going to get a dome here in a couple of years. So you're looking at guys that have thrived in those environments. He's one of them. He certainly has, and he's played better, obviously, in better weather. He's not your prototypical AFC North quarterback playing in the cold. But again, just connecting the longer term dots here, something to factor in as well.
It is fascinating. Again, it's not just Shedeur Sanders. It's not just Gabriel at the third round. Kyle McCord didn't go to the sixth round to the Eagles, and maybe that's why they hopped up Cleveland to make sure they got Shedeur, because you could see the Eagles were in the market for a backup quarterback as well. Quinn Ewers. We saw quarterbacks really slide in this draft that were projected much higher. So I know everybody's focused on one guy. There were a lot of other quarterbacks that we all thought, at least the experts thought, would be picked much higher that did not go very high. So maybe not the best quarterback class, something we talked about a lot leading up to it. It'll be fascinating to see what happens in Cleveland, but I'm with you. Flacco would be the spot for me at 3-1. Speaking of the number one pick for next year, it does feel like, do you want to play Arch Manning? I get it. Because, again, you go back to this time last year, Shedeur Sanders was minus $2. Minus $2 to be the number one pick in the draft. He goes in the fifth round. Quinn Ewers was the second betting choice. I mean, just think about that, how much things change in a year. So I'm not running to the window to play Arch Manning at 2-1 or Aller at plus 225. You see Nussmeier there at plus 450. And then you get back to Clemson here at their quarterbacks with Klubnik there at 18-1. But really, it does feel like a three-horse race in the betting market. If you had to wager it, which way would you go?
So I would err on the side of chaos again. Cam Ward coming all the way from, and I can't even remember off the top of my head what his number was. It was massive. But Lenore Sellers is the guy that I would look at 30-1. If you want some value, that would certainly be a great dark horse. Garrett Nussmeier too, in an LSU offense that it will be intriguing to watch. If the Saints are really bad, and on the outside shot, Arch Manning does not declare for the draft. That's a guy that you could factor in as well. If the Saints are bad, then they may have a chance to be up there and potentially be at that number one spot.
I'm glad you mentioned Arch Manning possibly staying in school, because that is a realistic possibility. And I don't know how those wagers would go if you check your book on that, because we saw what Peyton did years ago at Tennessee. Came back when nobody thought he'd come back. Eli really enjoyed the Grove down there at Ole Miss. It kind of runs in that Manning family. They like to stay a little bit longer in college if money is not an issue. Doesn't seem to be an issue in that family, that's for sure. It's not an issue with Sharp Plays. You go to sharpplays.com. You're going to get unmatched transparency with records that are updated daily, AI betting analysis, real-time global betting information, alerts directly from the pros. So check out sharpplays.com. They are respected, watched, and fears. sharpplays.com. When we come back, Rachel Doerrie, north of the border, talking puck. That's next here on VSiN By The Books.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books, right here on VSiN.
We are back, VSiN By The Books, on this Monday edition. Dave Ross and Jensen Lewis here. We love catching up with Rachel Doerrie, talking all things puck, as we are now deep into the Stanley Cup playoffs. She joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line, CTO of Betalytics, and joins us now at Rachel Doerrie on X. Rachel, great to have you back in the program. We were talking even during the break about some of the wild stuff we've seen. Take your pick in the Western Conference. Every series is 2-2, Rachel. So you can kind of flip a coin here as we go. What do you make of what we saw last night, though, very quickly in Edmonton? Down 3-1 to go into the third. You get the equalizer with 29 seconds after pulling your goaltender. You get a power play and you win this thing in overtime. And now that series is back all knotted up at 2. Is this a case of like exercising demons that the Kings just can't figure out how to beat Edmonton?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things. This is now the fourth straight year that they've faced off in the first round. And so that's probably one of the more underrated rivalries in the entire NHL. When you play a team 4 straight times, like, you do not like each other. I just think when you look at how Edmonton played, and it's not even how Edmonton played, it's really Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and Evan Bouchard kind of imposing their will when the game really matters. They figured out how to do that. And you combine that with the complete inexperience of the LA Kings coaching staff, be it Game 3, the really poor challenge decision that led to the power play goal immediately following the tying goal. And then you look at his last night, they ask him, okay, you've given up 2 third period leads. Do you need to make third period adjustments? And given that the expected goals, Edmonton is leading by 40% in the third period, yeah, I think you need to adjust your game plan. And the fact that their head coach was like, no, it's fine. I would be pretty concerned. And that series winner line at -115 looks real tasty to me if he's going to continue on that path.
Rachel, it's a great point. And speaking of blown leads, can we jump over to Winnipeg and St. Louis? I felt like the Jets were just going to rocking chair this one away. Connor Hellebuyck just looking like, okay, we've figured it out here. But now all of a sudden, the Blues singing a different tune here, and a couple of big blowout victories. How do you handicap this series where it's currently at, all knotted at 2?
Yeah, so prior to the series even starting, I have the Blues to win it in 7. Wow. And the reason I have the Blues to win in 7 is because in the last 2 seasons, Connor Hellebuyck's save percentage in the playoffs, so he's going to win the Vezina this year. He won it last year, and he was like second the year before. His save percentage in the playoffs is like .880. That is totally unacceptable for any goaltender, let alone a Vezina goaltender. I don't know whether he gets the yips or what happens. St. Louis is doing a fantastic job of getting traffic in front, of creating rebounds, getting deflections, the type of goals you need to score to be successful. And Winnipeg has no answers. Part of this issue is they're missing Gabriel Velarde, who gives them a legitimate scoring threat outside of Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. And St. Louis is doing a great job of shutting down those guys for the most part. And so if you don't have an answer outside of those 2 players because you're down players and other guys can't figure out how to chip in down the lineup, and Connor Hellebuyck has turned into a pumpkin, that's a big problem. Now, you're not in trouble until you lose at home. Game 5 is pivotal. I think whoever wins Game 5 is likely going to win the series. So if St. Louis wins Game 5, they're going to win in 6. But if Winnipeg wins in 5, I think if they probably win in 7, anything can happen, but St. Louis has all the momentum, and if Connor Hellebuyck doesn't figure out how to find some of that bibbity-bobbity-boo magic, they're in deep trouble in Winnipeg.
Right now, St. Louis plus $1.55 with that series all knotted up at 2. Very quickly, Rachel, can you pull back the curtain a little bit on that, what you talked about with if you challenge things, because it does feel pretty punitive. If you lose the challenge like the Kings did, and by the way, people that don't remember, Kings are up a goal. They're up 2-0 in the series. They're cruising. And all of a sudden, you make that challenge, you lose it, and then Edmonton scores 10 seconds later on the power play, and it feels like it's flipped that whole series. And can you tell the people what you did before this and how critical those decisions are?
Yeah, so prior to doing this stuff, I was the video coach for the Vancouver Canucks, and my chief role during the game was challenges. So putting the video through the bench, deciding, okay, is this a good challenge? Is this not a good challenge, in conjunction with the coaching staff? But we had to have several meetings with the NHL and the decision makers on these challenges to understand goalie interference. Offside is offside. It's a clean and cut rule. Like, you either are or you aren't. But goalie interference, there's a lot of gray area. And so you have to I used to have a checklist of 8 things. And if I didn't tick at least 6 boxes, probably 7, we're not challenging that play. And I was going down for that specific goal. I barely got to 2, and the second one was super generous. So I look at that. When you have a scenario where the decision, if you lose, is very punitive because you get a delay of game penalty, and I don't always agree with that, but I understand the spirit of it. They don't want it to be used as an extra timeout. I look at that and I go, that is not a goal that is close enough to be challengeable. And with the way the Oilers' power play is, I mean, like you said, they score 10 seconds later. You can't, unless you're darn sure, you can't be making that call, especially in the playoffs, because if that game's tied, maybe LA goes up 3-0 in the series. Now, I think they might lose the series, and it started with that decision.
I love the synopsis, Rachel, because it is really captivating for all these different leagues and what the rules and consequences, if you will, are. for those specific challenges. Speaking of consequences, a couple of good matchups here tonight. Let's start with the Lightning and the Panthers. All 3 games have been won by the road club. I'm on the Lightning on an alternate puck line at +1 because I do think they got a shot to win it. Give me your synopsis on how it's played out thus far, and do you feel the Lightning have kind of gotten back on their feet after 2 relatively embarrassing losses with Andrei Vasilevsky in games 1 and games 2?
Yeah, he is sort of somebody that I think has been a victim to my team has played a zillion games over the last 8 years, and I'm tired situation because he hasn't been very good the last 2 years in the playoffs, and he wasn't good in games 1 or 2. He was excellent in game 3, and without Brandon Hagel, the Lightning were really good in game 3. I hesitate to say home ice advantage because the reality of the situation is we don't have a situation like St. Louis or Edmonton or Toronto where Florida has a difficult barn to go into. Like Washington going into Montreal, that's the toughest building to play in the playoffs by a mile, not close. Florida, their building's half full. Like that's barely an atmosphere in a regular season game for 28 other teams. So I look at the Lightning, now that they've found their footing and Brandon Hagel is back and Matthew Tkachuk wasn't suspended, number one, I think that's a storyline because of the Four Nations series. Brandon Hagel and Matthew Tkachuk fought, and Matthew Tkachuk was hurt until a week and a half ago from that fight. So if I were Matthew Tkachuk, I probably wouldn't be lining up to fight Brandon Hagel, given how it went last time. And it ended up with a pretty serious groin injury. I like the Lightning tonight. I think when you look at kind of what's going on in the series, you've got coaches gamesmanship and chirping each other, which I think is fantastic. If Andrei Vasilevsky plays tonight the way he did on Saturday, I do think the Lightning win. I just think they're a deeper team. Their high-end players are better than Florida's high-end players in terms of skill. You look at Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point and Jake Gensel, and you compare that, yes, Sasha Barkov is probably the best two-way player in the game, but he's clearly not 100% right now, and I don't think Matthew Tkachuk is either. And even when they are 100%, they're still not at the skill level of a guy like Nikita Kucherov or Braden Point. So I think this is one of those times where if Vasilevsky is good, he's probably the guy that tips the scales here.
As a MMA handicapper, normally rematches don't go very differently than the original. Don't fight him again. We saw how it went at Four Nations. It didn't go well. How about Dallas against Colorado here? I'll knot it up at 2 as well. And it does feel like, Dallas with the walking wounded, figuring out a way, but Colorado kind of flexed their muscles a little bit in Game 4. How do you see Game 5 playing out tonight?
This has been my favorite series to watch for a couple of reasons. Gabriel Landeskog coming back after missing 3 years and then scoring for the cherry on top in Game 4. I think anytime you get your captain back, it's big. 3 years you get your captain back, that's an injection of pizzazz into your lineup that I don't think Dallas was really expecting. I would expect that if Miro Heiskanen is even close to 80%, he's likely going to play in Game 5, and he is the second best defenseman in the series behind Cale Makar if he plays. And so I think that could really even it out. But we saw Colorado completely impose their will in Game 4, and there's no reason to believe that wouldn't continue in Game 5 if Dallas has to ice the same lineup. I really do think Colorado's kind of figured it out. Mackenzie Blackwood has been nothing short of fantastic in the at least 3 of the 4 games. And so I look at this and I go, on the whole, I think this is a very even series. And I think you should probably just take the home team at home, which is Dallas, and they're the underdog. But I would wait to see if Miro Heiskanen's back in the lineup before I go anywhere near that money line.
What a start to the Western Conference playoffs. Everybody knotted up at 2. Rachel, we appreciate the time as always. We'll catch up again soon.
Sounds good, guys.
There she is, everybody. Rachel Doerrie. Give her a follow on X at the same handle. Back with our best bets next year. VSiN By The Books.
You're tuned in to VSiN By The Books right here on VSiN.
We are back. VSiN By The Books. Dave Ross, Jensen Lewis. Great having Rachel Doerrie talking all things puck in the last segment. Great show on this Monday. It's kind of recapping everything we saw over the weekend in the Night on Ice, certainly in the NBA playoffs. We'll get to some of our best bets here in 1 second. We did get a couple things here on X that were very interesting. One from Bill Hooker. Appreciate Bill watching, listening to the program. He actually has, from that game I was referencing, now that we know that the Commanders, Washington football is going to go back to the same site at RFK. Bill was at the same game I was at, and he's got the whole thing in glass. He's got the Washington Times headline where they destroyed my Cowboys that day, 37-10. Terry Allen, they ran roughshod. Cowboys, by the way, had already locked up a playoff spot. They didn't play a lot of their guys. Not that I remember the game like it was yesterday, but he does have the ticket stub as well. You got to admit, like, you guys in Cleveland getting a dome, I wonder what the reaction will be to leaving Cleveland Stadium and going to a new place. Because I know in D.C., and Gil Alexander's coming up next year on the network in the numbers game. You should listen to Gil every day. I cannot wait to hear his thoughts as well as somebody that grew up in that area. I worked in that area for almost 18 years. And Jensen, I do feel like when you get to however long it takes to build it, that's going to be a real home field advantage that they have not had in quite some time. I'm really excited for that fan base. For Cleveland, getting a dome stadium, will it be the same feel? How different will that be playing indoors versus out?
It'll be different. I mean, I can remember when it was the old LA Rams. That was my baptism into old Cleveland Municipal Stadium with my grandfather, and that's 80,000, 82,000 strong there. Stadiums are no longer like that unless it's the Jerry Dome, SoFi, some of these other places. But I think overall we live in a day and age, Dave, where a lot of these stadiums now, these owners or the people that are invested in it want to use it for more than, let's call it, 12 football dates,
right?
If you will. And so that's kind of the prevailing sentiment now. The location where we are down on the lake. Very windy for teams that are coming in, especially in the wintertime. Not easy on a special teams, not easy for a passing game. And it's tough listen, I grew up here. I'm used to it, but I'm sorry. I love sitting in my 70 degrees in my couch. Like I don't feel like I'm missing much by not going down there when it's 30, wind chill. It's got it in the teens to go watch a regular season football game. So as it is, will it go into the handicap of some win totals? I absolutely think it'll affect it, but anxious to see from a roster construction standpoint. We're surmising, why is Dylan Gabriel on this roster? Why was he drafted? Now it could be the long game here, just knowing the success that a guy like that, who's more attuned to playing in better conditions, is than playing outside.
I would just say I saw one game at that stadium there in Cleveland. It was the Browns against the Steelers. Vinny Testaverde was the quarterback for Cleveland. Eric Metcalf was the running back. Steelers won the game, and I was there with a lot of Pittsburgh people. IC lights were flowing. They had those Iron Cities were going, baby. So really fun time there in Cleveland. It was outdoors. It was September, so it was much better weather than what people are getting. Let's get to our best bets. Are brought to us by G-Bank, the official bank of VSiN. And you've got some plays in Major League Baseball. One's going to start here. The Metropolitans, that terrible loss yesterday, 7-1 lead late, and they give it up all 7 runs late in that game to lose 8-7. It could be a carryover effect here, but you think the offenses also could have good days.
Absolutely. Griffin Canning, Trevor Williams, not a whole lot of swing and miss here as far as strikeouts go. So I think both offenses, again, with the way that both bullpens have also been used, a lot of resources expended here. You're asking for length from both these starters. I don't think you get it, Dave. So I think both offenses an opportunity. Over 9.5 official play for me in this game.
Let's get to some other plays here in baseball that you're looking at. We had Will Hill on earlier. He might look to an under in the first 5 in Cleveland and Minnesota, but maybe Jensen, the bullpens, we know they've been dicey, certainly in Cleveland. Could you get some runs later than earlier?
It could. And again, I look at, if you want a player prop here, Carlos Correa, 2 or more total bases. He has obliterated Cleveland pitching in either an Astro uniform or a Twins uniform. So an angle to look at there. Traditionally, the Twins offense has come to play early in seasons when they face Cleveland. And even with Gavin Williams on the hill tonight, he's coming off an exceptionally good start himself. Bailey Ober has yet to really pitch well for the Twins, but for whatever reason, it feels like he gets it right more often than not against Cleveland. Now, is that today? we shall see. 6:10 Eastern first pitch, beginning, I believe, a 3 or 4 game series here. Longest homestand for Cleveland, but no official play for me. I do like where Will's at as far as the starters go, but all bets are off for a Twins bullpen that has seen better days. I just think that if you're looking for a lean, over 8 would be a lean, but no official play for me.
Let me ask you a little bit about Flaherty today with the Tigers against Ronald Blanco of the Astros. Detroit off to a great start here. Maybe no official play in pocket, but would you look to the Tigers here maybe on the run line?
Yeah, and I think it's more a play, Dave, if you're looking for that angle on Flaherty limiting an Astro offense that really hasn't had a lot of continuity thus far. So that run line, a nice little price, plus $1.55 there at Circa. It's plus $1.50 at DraftKings. Again, we'll probably wait until lineups do come out to see how Joe Espada will be able to try and counteract Flaherty. More importantly, the Tiger offense has been phenomenal. And so what they could put up there, Crawford boxes in left field, you're thinking some of the right-handed hitters, and also the short track there to right field. So Spencer Torkelson from the right side for Detroit, perhaps a Kerry Carpenter, who likely gets the start against the righty Ronel Blanco. But the Tiger run line would be what I would circle in that Tigers and Astros game.
Selfishly, let me ask you about those Reds. They're coming back off a sweep against Colorado, but you're coming all the way back home. You got to take on St. Louis. They're a little bit frisky over the weekend against the Brew Crew. Did lose yesterday. Andre Puente is going to be going here for the Cardinals. Nick Martinez on the bump here. You got to lay, really right now, you just got to lay $1.16, some St. Louis money coming in. What about, we've talked about that before, when you're traveling. How much does that factor into maybe that money coming in on the Cardinals a little bit?
Just 2 time zones. And again, playing the day game, I don't think it'll affect Cincinnati too much. Total of 9 right now, seeing 65% of the bets, 83% of the money, and more money coming in as we speak on that over. No surprise. Again, Great American Ballpark here. You're looking at the projected starters tonight with Martinez and Palante, as you mentioned. No real lean for me here. More importantly, would like to see if the Reds continue the momentum, right?
Yep.
You beat a team you're supposed to. They've got the best run differential in the National League. The Brewers right behind them as far as Central Division and National League opponents are concerned. So, I want to see lineups again here, see where Tito Francona is going with the Reds, but keep the momentum. Selfishly for us, we hope they take advantage again of a beleaguered Cardinal club at this point.
And the Cubs are off today. If the Reds win, 1 game out of first, if they can win today against St. Louis. Very quickly, Warren against Sagano. Yankees are in Charm City taking on the Orioles. Small favorites there, minus $1.30. But the big news there was Devin Williams being pulled as the closer there. What do you do with Devin Williams now? And could you see him now in a setup role?
You got to get the confidence back, right? And Luke Weaver will just ascend to that closer spot. He's been really, really good so far this year. And credit to the player for not letting that role change really affect him whatsoever. He has been masterful, and will head back to a place he had a lot of success in the second half of last season. As far as today's game goes, again, probably a lean to the over here, Dave. It's 9.5 on DraftKings. You're seeing 10 there at Circa. 45% of the bets, 79% of the handle. More money coming in as we speak too on that 9.5. So grab it now if you'll like it. No official play. This used to be the house of horrors for Baltimore, where they have to try and get Gleyber Torres out. Fortunately, Gleyber Torres no longer a member of the Yankees. But again, this will probably be an overplay considering how dead last ERA starting pitching for the Baltimore Orioles has been. A lot of early offense could be there for the Yankees.
You like runs there, but maybe not a lot of buckets between the Warriors and the Rockets tonight in that pivotal game 4, maybe an underplay here?
Yeah, I think Will Hill's right on it, man. The half-court offense for Houston has not been good, and we've seen 3 of the 4 games have gone under thus far. I think for at least 2 of the 3, the Rockets need to show me a little something beyond the arc. And again, we obviously wait for news about Jimmy Butler. I'm on the under 200.5. I know it's ticked up to 202 in some places, but again, I still think prove it or lose it for me for the Rockets in the half court.
And a juicy one here for the Avs on the puck line. Going to play that at plus $1.80 against the Stars. Just feels like they have their full complement of guys back.
I just don't think they waste any time, man. I think they want to get out early. I think they want to really force Dallas to have to come back offensively. Minus the puck line plus $1.80 for me the Colorado Avalanche tonight.
I like that number. GBank is up in the ante, up to $750 bonus for new GBank Visa Signature Card customers. New customers who spend $1,000 on eligible purchases within 90 days from opening up their account, they're going to get a $250 bonus. In addition, if you spend $50K on gaming and sports app loads within that first 30 days of opening up the account, you're going to get another $500 bonus. That's $750. Apply now, VSiN.com/GBank. That's VSIN.com/GBank. Subject to credit approval, terms and conditions to apply. Jensen, I got to tell you, Gil Alexander next on a numbers game. Guy looks so happy because I know he can't wait for the boys to go back to D.C. for the Commanders football. That is going to be a happy day. You got to listen to that. And later on, Money Moves, Stormy Bonatoni, JVT. That's going to be a great show today as well. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.